Sheila, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. You've been CEO and president of Alpha Advisory Partners over the last year. Tell us more about the company and your role as CEO.
You know, as you see from my background, I've had extensive global experience. I've worked with Fortune 300 companies largely in strategy, M&A, restructuring, turnaround, and a lot of growing businesses. I have had a 30-year career, and now I'm transitioning to build a portfolio of corporate boards. But as you know, when you are doing board service, it is demanding, but it doesn't take 100% of my time. And because of the wealth of my background and experience, I was getting a lot of calls from my friends who are CEOs and who are in senior positions to come and advise them on something or to share opinions. So I thought, why don't I monetize this advice and that I'm giving to people? And I got a bunch of friends together who were kind of in the similar situation. And we set up this company which basically advises companies that need to grow, who want to turn around, who want to transform themselves. Everything from mid to small size to pretty large divisions of companies. And the unique thing is the CEOs know me. It is done in a safe environment. He feels he has a trusted advisor, and that's what I really offer, the breadth and wealth of experience in a very trusted environment.
And what's it been like, the experience as an entrepreneur?
You know, I was lucky that I had a lot of demand. My company came about because of the demand I got for people calling for advice. So I have literally hit the ground running, and we've had to get more resources to sort of take it to the next level because we just couldn't keep up with the number of people who were calling. But it's largely a function of my network of friends who have risen to senior positions and who are looking for advice and guidance. So, you know, the message here is throughout your life and career, you build a large network of friends whom you build trusted relationships with, and everyone benefits because they call me for business, I'm able to advise them, their companies grow, so it's a win-win on all sides.
Prior to working as CEO of Alpha Advisory Partners and building this organization, you worked in senior positions at many large organizations, including American Express, Thomson Reuters, McKinsey, just to name a few, Credit Suisse. How did you decide you wanted to pursue a career in financial services?
It's a long story. You know, I grew up in India, and I lost my father at a very young age when I was like 10 years old. So I was the eldest, and I needed to sort of earn a good living and, you know, make sure my whole family was in a strong position financially. I went to the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, which is the top business school in India. Again, because I knew that when you graduate from there, you get a very strong job and you're well positioned in life. And at that time also, the banks like Citibank and American Express were considered prestigious organizations to work in. And obviously I wanted to work in an organization which had very good training, very good brand, very good values, very good leadership. And my first offer out of IIM Ahmedabad was American Express Bank. And I had such a good experience there that I sort of carried it through my career. Now, in between, I did spend a short time with McKinsey, and there too, I consulted to financial services. So my whole career has been financial services from all sides: growth, turnaround, working with clients, lots of M&A, lots of divestitures. That's been the full spectrum.
You went from working at all these large organizations to starting your own company, working in a much smaller environment. What's that transition been like, and what has been some of the big differences?
Frankly, I love the new environment that I'm in. First and foremost, I am literally, as you say, my own boss. So I sort of carve my destiny. I know what I want to do, and I do it. I love my experience in working in large companies, because the best thing you have in a large company is you have structure, you have process, you have lots of people around, so there's energy from the people. But beyond a certain point, you are catering to so many constituencies at every time, whether it's the employees, the shareholders, the external government organizations. You're working to make all these aspects come together in a large company. You often can't do exactly what you want to do because you're building consensus to find the right approach. There is a lot of time and emotional energy spent. So if I could achieve A to B in 10 months in a big company, I can do it in 2 months on my own here, because I have the sense of what I want to advise a big company, and I do that. I tell them this is the path forward. To do that in a large company, I'd have to spend time building consensus before I could even make that decision. So that's the time frame and the level of control you have. Of course, I don't have the structure and the process and the people around, so there are differences. But this has been a good and a valued change.
Tell us about some of your learnings as an entrepreneur so far, and any advice that you have for someone who might want to start their own business.
I have been lucky that I have got people calling me for business, and so I didn't have the long lead time that most people have. But I would suggest for entrepreneurs, they should be prepared for it takes longer to start up than they expect. So they should have a longer time frame before them. That's the first thing. The second is they need to have a plan B. What if this doesn't work? Can they go back to a regular job? Can they try something else? So they need to keep the time frame and a plan B. And the third advice I would give is be open to all experiences, roll with the punches, because you just never know what can come. So these are my three, suggestions that they keep in mind before they embark on something new.
Tell us about some qualities that you look for when you're hiring talent.
Just based on my experience, I want to see people who are very driven, who will do what it takes to get it done. Whatever it takes, working round the clock, not sleeping for 3 days, who are just hungry to succeed, who are very driven. For me, it's like a fire that they need to have in their bellies. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I look for is somebody who has good interpersonal skills. Because you may be driven and you have a lot of fire in your belly, but if you don't know how to work with people at all levels, sideways, up, down, externally, internally, you have to learn to work with people. So these are the two skills, drive and ability to work with people. Everything else flows through those two things.
How would you describe your own leadership style, and what do you think makes a good leader?
I'm competitive and I'm driven. I'm not very big on patience, and that's my downfall. I'm working on it because I want everything done yesterday. But I am somebody who motivates my team. I have, throughout my career, I like everyone on my team to be included, to be engaged, to be happy, to have that clarity of vision. So if I have to describe my style, it would be a very driven leader, but who takes her team along, who includes everybody. The leader has to have a vision. They need to know what they want to do, where they want to go, and they have to be able to communicate that well. That's where we are going. This is how we think we should go. There may be bumps in the way, but that's our goal. And that has to be reiterated enough so that the whole team is marching in the same direction. So the clarity of vision is very important. The second point is, I think the leader needs in under whatever situation needs to bring that team along. So convey the vision and then motivate the team to go along. And someone who is not afraid to make hard decisions. Firing people, selling off businesses, saying no occasionally, that requires strength, because a lot of people don't like to give the bad message or say no, to hurt people. But you have to be able to do it in a nice way and say, this is the rational decision we need to do.
Do you think leadership can be taught, or do you think people are born leaders?
I think it's a blend of the two. Nobody per se is born a leader. They may have more leadership-like qualities. They may be better speakers. They may be strategists, visionaries. But everybody has to learn through experience to form and develop their own leadership path. I do think leadership can be learned. Of course, some will just have it and so they'll have an edge forward. Some have to learn it the hard way and they can be better leaders. They may not be Bill Clinton or whoever you want to think, Zuckerberg, if you call him a leader, everyone has a different concept. But yes, leadership can be learned, though some people have it innately and in themselves, and so they are at an advantage.
Tell us about a time that you faced a crisis in the workplace and how you had to change your leadership style during this time.
One of the companies I worked with fairly recently, big Fortune 100 company, well known, well respected, but a very slow moving culture, very slow moving culture. And they were in a monopoly situation, so they could afford to be slow moving, culturally and risk averse, let's just keep going. But they were facing some longer term strategic challenges. And to get that message of the urgency required a time that instead of just being a slow moving, consensus driven, needed a shock treatment, needed someone who would make and say the tough things, that business is looking bad, the future is not so great, we're losing customers, our technology is outdated, we need to upgrade our talent, we need to change our branding and media. They needed someone who could say it rationally, and it was not a message that was liked. So, I risk the fact that I become unpopular because I'm giving bad messages. But in hindsight, 10 years from now, they will remember me as someone who helped bring about that change by giving the tough messages. At that point, they may not have liked me because they thought too aggressive, she wanted to make change, she's pushing too hard. But I think 10 years from now, they will see that there was a visionary aspect to that style of leadership.
What woman inspires you and why?
I wouldn't say one woman, but I am seeing increasingly in corporate America a whole slew of women who have come up leading very large companies. Mary Barra at General Motors, Indra Nooyi at Pepsi, Meg Whitman at HP, Ginny Rometty at IBM. These are like the top 10 largest companies or top 50 largest companies in the world, all led by women, all in relatively difficult conditions. I mean, you've heard about the GM recalls. HP is another big turnaround situation. IBM, slow growth and having to sort of reposition themselves. Huge strategic challenges. And they have 100,000, 200,000 employees. And I look at these women and they are pioneers in their field. They're literally the first CEOs of companies of this size. They're facing tremendously difficult situations. And they are handling it thoughtfully, with grace, and I believe what they're doing in a lot of cases is the right thing. They're owning up to the mistakes, they're taking tough decisions, and they're paying a very hard personal price for it. Travel, family, work, they're doing it. I respect these women. They are pioneers in their field.
What do you think is the biggest challenge to women in leadership positions today?
It's hard because there are no role models. I named you 4 women, only 5% of women in the Fortune 500 are women CEOs. So there's no role model, there is no network. They are kind of learning as they go. It's easier when you have many people out there, so you can learn, you can follow, you can go for guidance, you have mentors. So lack of role models is one aspect that's hurting women. The second thing I feel is to reach the pinnacle of your career and to be considered a strong leader, it's a continual hard learning process. Women, unfortunately, face the age demographic. By age 35, if you're not married, if by 40 you don't have a kid, you may never have a kid again. So many women at that stage make decisions to stay home or look after their kids or force themselves to find a husband, to have a kid, manage the family. But at that time is also the most demanding time career-wise. And despite whatever they say in the press about pathways off the career and then come back, once you step out, it is close to impossible to come back because all your peers will be ahead of you, your skills will be outdated, you lose credibility. So this is what is hurting women in the workplace. It's that demographic time frame where their careers peak but their personal lives have to keep balance. And it's hard, it's very hard.
Tell us about some of the challenges you faced in the workplace while you were climbing up the corporate ladder.
When I started out, no one ever talked about having a sponsor or a mentor. I never heard of that stuff. In India, I never heard about it. I didn't even hear about it in the US. It was only after I became a managing director at Credit Suisse that I was one of those who helped set up what is called the Women's Network. So that was a network that got together the few senior women to be role models for the younger up-and-comers, that tried to have more networking sessions so these younger people at least could see and experience what it is to be with senior women. And we would talk to them about our experiences. But all this is, so I consider myself as part of that older genre that helped create some of this stuff in terms of role models, mentorship, sponsorships, and just raising awareness for some of these issues. It didn't exist in my time.
Is there anything that could be done to overcome this?
I never stopped my career. I had twins. I continued working. I was very lucky because I had a support system. My mom came and lived with me. We are a 2-career family. We had house help. I had a very good support system. But very many women can't have that support system. The only thing I would say is you have to have a very strong collaborative partner, a spouse, who will be there when you're not there, who will make some adjustments to his career. And if you're traveling, he's at home, or he's not playing golf the weekend, you need to work. There is some balance between it at that unitary micro family level. Corporations are trying. No one wants to lose women, the talent, because there's a shortage of talent. There are efforts being made, not enough, with all the maternity benefits, not enough. There is an effort in the right direction. It's not enough, but it has to be both corporate, governmental, and the nuclear family. It's a bigger, harder issue than I can give it justice to, but it's something that has to be addressed from multiple angles.
That's right. Yeah. Do you think the issues will be the same for women in the next generation?
Is probably less. First, there will be more women out there in senior positions, so there'll be more role models. Secondly, the way work is evolving, there are virtual offices. You don't need to go to the office. You work from home. There's the internet. There's social media. There's a whole wave of entrepreneurships. And let me tell you, my daughter who's in junior high school, one of her classmates developed an app which helps Alzheimer's patients track their movements and stuff like that. Now he's 16 or 17 years old. He created this app. He's going to commercialize it. He's going to make a few $1 million. This guy is 16 years old. And there are many other young people who are thinking differently now. Yesterday, we were eating beetroots at home. When you eat it, your lips get red. One of my daughters said, "Mommy, we can make an organic lipstick out of this. I can set up a business." I never thought like that when I grew up, but they think differently. So I am hopeful that this new wave of doing business and the fact that there are greater role models may help women, but still not enough.
What advice do you have for people who are trying to climb to the top?
You need to have mentors and sponsors. Have a whole bunch of people who can advise you, like a board, a group of people. So one person can help you with life balance, another person can help you with getting the next job, the third person can help you with some health related issues or how to bring up children. So have a bunch of 5 or 6 people you can trust and you can go to, and use those resources all the time. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would tell women is speak up, ask, speak up, demand. Sheryl Sandberg says lean in. I would call it something else, but ask. Don't sit back and just expect things to come for you. You want something, go out and get it. That is the only way it'll work. And that worked for me too, because there were a couple of times I felt I needed to be considered for a promotion, etc. I went out and I asked.
Is that something you think women tend to shy away from a little bit more?
Yes. Little bit, and I don't know whether it's a lack of confidence, it's a lack of role models. But if they see more women in senior position, they'll say, yes, I can also do that. Why not me? Mm-hmm. I had few, so I had to push and ask, and But if you want something, my advice is go and get it. Push hard and go and get it. You may fail once or twice, but you will finally succeed.
What would you say has made you successful?
This is me speaking for myself. I'm very driven. I want to do the best always, and I'm willing to pay the price. And I speak up, I ask for help. In terms of the work balance and the children stuff, yes, and I admit I could do it because I had my mother and the whole support system. In 30 years of my marriage, my husband has never once asked me to make a cup of tea. Like, he never asked me to do any stuff in the house. It's always me, my career, I do what I want.
Do you think women can have it all? Family, successful career?
It depends how you define it. The super successful women have paid a very big price. I know one super successful CEO who said her daughters at some point in their lives didn't speak to her because she was never there. A lot depends on how you define having it all. What does it mean? Does it mean I'm okay with my career at this level, but my children are very successful in school and we have a very nice family at home? Or does it mean I'm willing to give up everything just for my sake of my career? You have to define what you want, and the key point is define it along with your spouse. It can't be just the woman doing it, making the decisions. The husband also has to say, okay, 2 years I will take a back seat with my career. If you have to travel, you go ahead and do it. I'll take care of the children. That equality in a relationship is, I think, going to be the fundamental determinant of what you define as success.
You've talked about how you want to give back to the community more
Yeah.
now that you've reached a certain point in your career. Tell us why this is important to you.
For the first 35 years of my life or 40 years of my life, I was too focused on myself, my father died, I was young, and getting myself and my family up, etc. There's so many others, especially coming from India, who don't know to read and write, who don't have health care. That emotionally, it's very hurtful. It upsets me. Your first thing is, what can I do to help? You do it with your own home, people who help in your home, you make sure all their children go to school. But then you want to do it in a bigger scale. And that is one of the reasons I have got involved with Pratham, and I've been in the board now for 10 years, since 2005.
Tell us more about what Pratham is.
Pratham is the largest NGO in India that's focused on education. And I'm not talking higher education, I'm talking of grassroots level education, teaching children to read and write and do math, that basic stuff. It has now branched off into providing skills for people so they can get jobs, and for helping girls who've dropped out go back into school and finish their education. But their real focus, the thrust, is basic education. So children in the slums, in the villages, etc. And that has become, for me, a passion. What can you do from the US? You can only help with fundraising, raising visibility for the cause. And so we have big benefits where we raise millions of dollars, but we also raise visibility with the local community. So there are many Indians who are doing well who didn't know of Pratham. Call them, meet them, speak about them, get them engaged, because every one of them comes originally from India, where they've seen this poverty and they don't know how they can give back. But once they realize it, or they start seeing that there are organizations which are pristine, the money goes directly back, it's well managed, you get results, you get reports, they're making big change, people want to get involved. And I've seen over the last 10 years, Pratham has gone from nothing in New York. Few people knew about it, and now the benefit dinner raised multi-millions, sold out, everyone is eager to give back, to get engaged. So it's maturing of the diaspora that has come to the US.
How would you compare our education system here with those of other countries? And do you think students here are prepared for the workforce?
First and foremost, every kid in the US does get a chance to go to school. You have public schools. Anyone wants to go to school, they can go to school. That's not the case in places like India still. So there itself is a big check for the US and for the UK and most of Europe. If a child wants to go to school, they can go there. So India doesn't yet offer that. Now, at the pinnacle, at the top end, the IITs and IIMs in India are as good, if not better, than Harvard and Stanford and MIT. Brilliant people. But that's the pinnacle. While in the US, the general mass is still at a much higher level. I know they say that people in Korea and India are better at math and science, but again, you're talking of a very small percentage. The average person in the US still is better at math and science and stuff like that. Now, more could be done to prepare the mass of students for the 21st and 22nd century. More could be done, but they are still operating at a much higher level. And that's my message, The US is very self-critical about themselves. It's still the best country for freedom of rights, education, access to education. If you want to do something, you can do it here. That's not always the case in other countries.
What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I wanted to be successful, powerful, able to give back, able to make change, able to have an impact. I think I wanted something on those lines. Like, I never said I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be politician. I didn't have that sort of a micro aspect or ambition, but I wanted to be like, you know, this group of things, that I'm successful, powerful, well-to-do, able to give back. It was that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. What book are you reading right now?
You know, as a person, I don't read books. I am a voracious reader of topical sort of stuff, like the business newspapers and, you know, whatever is online in Bloomberg and stuff like that. I'm absolutely up to date on that by the minute.
You are. Okay, great.
Yes. Big fat books, I take time to go through. In fact, the book that's on my dressing table right now is Steve Jobs' biography, but I'm only halfway through it.
Okay. All right, Sheila. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.